Good morning. Welcome to Community Voice. We out the bed. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Oh man, what up, Byron?
What's going on?
Man, trying to make it happen, Captain. And
Yeah.
Debo, what's happening, man?
Man, it's happening. What's going on with you?
Man, I just get ready to argue with Michelle.
Yeah,
So let her
well,
warm up her
you
coffee.
know, if you're talking to her, you're gonna be arguing with her. Is her mouth moving? She arguing.
I don't know if DC Denise Crumble is listening, but we had a very dear friend and at a home going. I was doing the eulogy and I asked the question. I said, is anybody here who has ever had an argument with this person? Every hand went up.
Is that good or bad?
It was her.
If no respect to person is what that means.
Man. My mother used to say, boy, you argue with a signpost. If I was right. But anyway, now I wanted to get Michelle and we're going to talk about the Pope. But let me.
Man, would y'all leave the Pope alone? He ain't been on the job 10 days, and y'all at him.
10 days. It's been, 3 days? I was in the car leaving here when they announced that they
It was
had,
Thursday, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Thursday
they had white smoke. Okay.
It's terrible, man.
Oh, man. So
What's it like to wake up and find out you're black?
that was the discussion I was trying to have with Michelle. Well, one, I'm going to say this, and I know people are going to say you tripping, but why does it matter?
You know why it matters.
Why?
Because if one of those real black guys had been voted in, you talk about a suicide rate. You want to get rid of a lot of white people at one time. Vote in a black pope.
Oh my God! So I heard that. So people was there a suggestion that if people would have known that was part of his lineage, he would have lost.
Yeah. So how do you think that's going to affect the Catholic faith? Think there's some folks that's changing their religion.
As a black Catholic, I'm concerned.
You're gonna be
so anyway,
fried chicken in the Vatican,
right? Yeah,
That's what you went to?
I just asked the question.
You
see, because you the one made it an issue.
You the one made it the
yeah.
thing.
I didn't say nothing about no fried chicken.
But you already know they already gonna use that one. Watermelon seeds.
You want this one?
But I hate. I ain't gonna be here that long. But I hate these chairs.
I wanted to eat.
That's right.
Turnip greens.
I'm gonna call the police.
Collard greens. You think the Pope eat turnips and collards and chitlins?
No, he doesn't.
Oh, okay, I was.
He's Peruvian food.
Oh, he's
dual citizenship.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He's he deals with the Peruvians, and I didn't realize though his seminary is right down in Highland Park.
Mm-hmm.
But wasn't he? I think he majored in mathematics at Villanova. So it's real interesting.
Because his brother's still there in Chicago, isn't he?
Yeah. I was telling someone that it's when you look at how Catholics go into the clergy and the vocation, a lot of times they have very different, they could be scientists, they could be medical background, literature. I mean, and then the seminary is then different. Protestants have a very different thing where the vocation starts undergrad, where people are studying Bible, and then they'll go on and do the master's.
Studying Bible.
Oh,
but the question,
this guy's deep. I thought there was gonna be some arguing going on. He didn't start philosophizing.
No, there ain't gonna be no arguing.
no,
I already said he was waiting to argue with
I
Michelle.
Someone found my ordination Bible and gave it to me. I didn't know that I didn't have.
What's an ordination Bible?
It's Bible to give you when you get ordained. So I have my.
Is it different from any other Bible?
No.
Now, who ordained you?
Pastor Wanzo, Pastor Ivy.
And who is someone? I mean, it sounded like it was all random. Like they found their goodwill. I mean, how many places did you leave your ordination Bible?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. And I tried when my sister gave me the Bible, and I'm looking. So I looked at the date. I had to go back and check. It was the date that it was ordained. So it was my ordination Bible. But up in our display case in the dining room, I have a Jerusalem Bible, which is English and Hebrew.
Okay.
And then I have a Bible that is 150 years old.
Where did that Bible come from?
Squeeze box.
Really?
Yeah, 150 years old. So I'll add that I was joking with.
How do you misplace your ordination Bible?
That's a good question, man.
I mean that.
I could have left.
I already asked that question.
I
He
know, but
didn't
I mean,
answer.
it's like the day of your ordination. You're supposed to.
I already. Zebo, stop trying to be funny because
No,
I already
just-
asked that question.
must
He's just
not have-
being messy.
Must not have meant much to him. He left it behind.
Because I opened the door, he closed it, and then you're gonna come back and push it back open.
You didn't.
No, how do you do that? Because I'm not messy like you. I know when to leave
Please.
stuff alone.
You see the red can back there, right?
No, I don't.
Yeah, always bringing gasoline. So I always got that red can back there. He come to put the
Wondered how
fire
does
out.
someone
I don't
leave
see it,
that
but I
behind?
definitely know that it happens.
I could have never
I could have never.
have left my ordination Bible.
I think the
Dude,
certificate.
you are so full
I
of
think the
it.
certificate
Oh my
was,
God.
was
Say
looked
it
at-
again, though. Say it that way again.
I could have never left my ordination
Oh,
Bible.
let me say also John Hughes. And so that was my ordination council.
Okay.
Oh, and Reverend Wilbur Baker.
Are these people local?
Yeah, Pastor Wanzo.
Some of them are deceased, aren't they?
Say the names again. John Hughes.
John Hughes, who currently he's at was it King of Kings
I wouldn't know.
on 24th. 24th. I'm
Why you
amazed at
asking
what
if
you
he
don't
did?
know.
and I'm not afraid to say it either.
Yeah, he get to hurry up.
But I tell you what I do know.
Oh, no, none.
Keith, I tell you what I do know. I could have never left my ordination Bible.
Say never.
Never.
I got the
Kind of
certificate.
like Byron.
Heaven to Mercatory, even. How does one do that?
It sound like Byron.
Anyway,
No.
Michelle and I were having a discussion, and the discussion was
Byron, like, I don't talk like that. Yes, she do.
Michelle and Lakeisha went in and did some forensic work and found out.
Why
that-
you make that face?
Forensic studies.
Some forensic
he,
studies.
he did it like it was some BS. He looked like
Putting their real forensic science skills together. They Googled.
No. Hers, a lot of it was based in being connected to her family being from New Orleans.
Right.
You know, I was talking about when Hurricane Katrina happened, her grandmother lost her roof.
Okay.
You know, and I remember them all going down there because the family had to pay because the insurance company wouldn't pay to put the roof back on.
Okay.
So I was getting the whole education about the lower ninth and the 7th Ward and, you know, the Creole, because I didn't understand all that history, which also comes up in Sinners,
Mhm.
in the movie Sinners. So, yeah, when she saw that last name, she was like, wait a minute. And I'm like, what's the significance of the last name? That is
Hold
a
up.
Creole
Wait
name.
up.
Yeah, she was like, that's a Creole name, baby. It's something going on. Somebody ain't telling the whole story.
So the question I had,
Question is,
you know,
will I ever believe
It would
you?
feel like Jermaine Rideout is here, but okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, this would be Jermaine. Well,
swear for God.
respectfully,
right hand.
Michelle.
Swear for God with my right hand.
No, you were saying though.
But so my question was, one, does it matter? And if it does matter, why does it matter?
Well, first of all, I just love that the thing that you say, it always gets back to slavery.
I knew that was coming.
Relevant for me. But I actually am of the opinion that it matters.
Okay.
And I'm of that thought because people knowingly made a decision. And I get the economics of it. I get if you have the opportunity to live better and not suffer the injustices and the indignities that Black people were subjected to, the 20s, 30s, you know, on today. I get it. Chris Rock, I mentioned his joke when I've heard you reference it before. I'm rich, and there are white folks that wouldn't trade places with me because they understand what it means to be Black, what that treatment looks like. So I get all of that. But as a grown person and a person in the faith arena, in which I'm assuming we barter on truth, it's a part of what this whole thing is about to some extent. how do you become grown and know this lineage? Because now I'm asking, because you got a passport. What's your passport say in terms of your race? What does what have you have you done anything at all that acknowledges that history or that background? And I just think that, if you're gonna be in this arena, you gotta come full circle because a lot of people obviously said they had no idea that this was his lineage. A lot of the white priests, you said, yeah, they got asked about it. And I was like, yeah, I don't know nothing about that. So I guess I'm just trying to figure out at what point do you acknowledge this? Because his brother said we knew
But I,
that
but what
they
would
did
that?
the switch. We
Well,
knew.
I know you did this whole thing about transparency, and that I think you were saying there should be a high level of transparency when you ascend to this height. But I asked you the question off here. Barack Obama is, and I hate using black and white, so I'm just gonna, but that's what we use. He's half white, he's half black. Could Barack Obama check white on a
No, because he physically
government?
doesn't look white.
So is it physically? Is that what makes you black?
I mean, well, we already know the nonsense of one drop. But that wasn't created by us,
Right.
and it was foolish in and of itself. So we know that, but aesthetically, characteristically, Barack couldn't pass for white. Now you can check whatever you want to. Tiger Woods has demonstrated that. I'm not sure exactly what he checks, but he, hurry up and let everybody know when we were excited about the green jacket. Slow your roll. I'm not black. I don't identify as African American. Um,
But then I think that becomes, and I'm using and correct my imprecise language if in fact imprecise. Why do we even have to, certainly on government documents, declare our ethnic background and saying that race is a false construct?
so we don't really declare our ethnic background. We declare our racial background
Well, I'm just saying, but
because the two words are not interchangeable.
they're not interchangeable, but it is in terms for lack of anything else. All right, so racial designation.
Yeah, it's race because,
Okay. So why is that
ethnicity, we
necessary?
don't check Irish or I'm Polish or I'm German. We check black, white.
But why is it necessary?
I mean, at this point, number one, just for I think accounting purposes, census, understanding what the demographic makeups of areas are, just because that's the way it's been rooted in our system and the way we've done it. I know a lot of other countries they don't box people in that way, and they deal with the made up construct of race. They do it very, very differently. You see, and you talk about this frequently, more caste systems than you see anything else. Um, so I just understand that that's just the way we've done it. And to some extent, I think some of it is valuable. I listened to Will Martin when he was just sitting here talking about that 58% of, I'm sorry, 58,000 of the students in MPS is 70 something thousand students are black children. So when you start talking about resources, allocations, funding, I think those things are tied into understanding racial demographics of a community, and it can become important. Again, I talked about white South Afrikaners coming over to the US. But in fact, they make up 7% of South Africa's population, but they own more than 70% of the land in South Africa. So I think having some of that racial information helps us understand, you know, the lay of the land when we having some of these discussions.
Do you think that with our continued focus on something like appearance furthers racism, or racism is just going to just be?
But is it furthering racism as opposed to, because number one, I'm not gonna not acknowledge that I'm black. I mean, you can look at me for the most part and say, yeah, she black. And now what black from what region of the world could be a different conversation. Is she from America? Is she from Kenya? Is she from Nigeria? You could do that piece, but you're gonna look at me and know that I'm black. That does, knowing that I'm black does not further racism unless you choose to make it about that.
But if our discussion is always through the constant, if our discussion is through the lens of race, it does. Do you think it has impact? I heard this, and I had never thought about this, but there were a group of descendants of Africans speaking, and they said, "Oh yeah, When you say black, we think of Americans. We don't think of Jamaicans. We don't think even in I think in Britain too. You think of black folks, but every place else is their country of origin. It's their micro ethnic group. I think.
But I'd be interested to hear what other racial demographics think of when you hear black. Because for the black Africans who think, we don't think that way, ask the white Afrikaner or the white, European or somebody else sitting right next to you. Just because you choose not to say that and see that, other people do see it. And do they immediately come to American blacks? I don't think so. I think it could be all of us.
When they hear black, but I think
if you in France and you say black, they don't necessarily go America. They go black people. They don't. I mean, I just like some of that is black Afrikaners trying to run from and disassociate themselves from what we go through over here.
Had the audacity to say that because they had been there 4 generations, that they were African, and the indigenous African people were going, "No, you're European, you're Dutch," So, part of the 400.
But again, that speaks to nationality versus ethnicity. In terms of nationality, if they hold citizenship there, they are African. Just like when
Teresa like Africans, that's why they call themselves Afrikaners.
Right.
They say Africans as if to say that you're indigenous. You're not indigenous.
Well, I mean, okay.
It's like us in America. We as descendants of enslaved Africans are not indigenous to America. If you just talk about from anthropology, no, it would be the Cherokee and all those folks who were here before Europeans and Africans got here. The whole race piece becomes, and I understand everything that is created. It was created to support a certain political and economic system. It's still in place to support certainly political systems. But if we're having a conversation where, for example, I don't buy, we're colorblind. Nobody's making that argument.
And you shouldn't be.
But because of programming, the first thing you think of, or some people think of when it's black, is okay, it's negative. It's negative. Right. Like you used the Chris Rock story. I'm rich, and there's white people who would not want to trade places with me. So what does that speak to? It speaks to it speaks to just how pernicious this idea of race and racism is. And it was something that just happened at the Justice Department. They will no longer pursue discrimination cases based on disparate impact, which is one of the things in terms
but
of
they lying
law.
Because one of the things that Trump has already said is he wants them to investigate any cases in which white people were treated differently and there was a disparate impact. So they lying. They're not going to investigate none of that impact black and brown folks. But he has already been given directives for them to look at anything, these college campus situations, anything that has negatively impacted white people, he wants investigated. So they lying. We are going to look at disparate impact, but only if it's disparate against white people.
Has any court in the land determined DEI unconstitutional?
No, because nobody's brought these cases forward.
So if no court in the land has designated it as, there has not been a court challenge to its legality, then why then the retreat from it?
Because we know that public opinion can drive stuff more than facts and law. People are worried about, and also the reality that they know that this is a punitive individual in the White House. And so when you see a Harvard University being told, hey, we're going to take $2 billion up, you know what, y'all going to push back. Now we're going to take an additional $8 billion. Law firms who capitulated, and these are the people, some of the best legal minds in the country, in the world. And you were so afraid of repercussions from this dude, you give up $1 billion in pro bono work to the Trump, to Trump. Like people settling with him when he clearly did the things that they said he did.
Until they challenged it in court.
But only one group was, or one of the smaller mid-sized law firms was willing to challenge. The high
Sounds like Harvard now is going to challenge.
because and like, but people understand the repercussions, and that even in the short term, you stand to be harmed so badly that a lot of people are afraid to fight back.
I just, because the idea that you want to be more open, and the idea that, and I think you did a brilliant job this morning of describing where you're going to bring in 43 so-called refugees into the country. Anybody that's black and brown, like the people who've been relocated here because of disasters from Haiti, they've lost their status. The people from Honduras lost their refugee status. The fact that it is so openly and it's so blatant, and it seems like people like, okay.
I mean, even black legislators, quite frankly, on the federal level, like I said, I'm waiting for the NAACP's not just statement, but ACLU, we are pursuing a lawsuit about these people being given an abbreviated pathway to citizenship. How can this is not constitutional? You cannot do this. You are literally in our faces, disparate treatment based on race.
Mhm.
In our faces. And I'm waiting. And we knew this was happening. We knew it was coming. They'd already said that this was going to be made available. So where is the work? Where is the pushback? Where is the fight? And that's the thing that has gotten Democrats in so much trouble with people, is because folks are saying, even Hakeem Jeffries, I don't see the fight, fam. Where is the fight right now? And I was having a conversation with someone who said Hakeem's, he's not a fighter in the way that we think about in terms of that street fight. It's going to be
Like,
more
we think
academic.
like Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah. And but is that working for us right now? And what works? But just the utter frustration that this is happening, and it doesn't seem like there's anybody throwing up roadblocks or guardrails saying you cannot do this. Literally, you cannot give preferential treatment to a pathway to citizenship. And that this process typically takes 18 to 24 months of vetting. These people did it in weeks. They did it in weeks. And then we're spending outrageous money, to fly people in. We're going to go get you and provide the airfare. Like, all of this is madness. And then once they arrive today, because I think about those Hispanic Latino people that were dropped off in Martha's Vineyard. I think about with nothing. I think about when we were in Chicago for New Year's 2 years ago, as Lakeisha and I are leaving Cedric the Entertainer's big concert that they did, not far from us, buses were being dropped at 1:00 in the morning with people in the freezing cold with nothing. What's going to be the treatment for these Afrikaners when they land?
I understand they're planning a celebration.
Yes, I heard big press conference celebration. And you got black folks in Texas sitting here like, but we don't have health care. We don't have this. We don't have that. And again, we saw folks being rounded up on horses, but the red carpet is being rolled out. Where are these people getting ready to stay now that they've landed? Who's paying for this? Like, I don't understand how none of these questions are being addressed.
Because normally in situations like that, even in refugee status, there are sponsors there. There are agencies that are there to provide. I know the work I did around refugee work was through Jewish social services, Catholic social services.
We worked with a lot. I came to work for Lena right at the time that Katrina had happened. And so I was being sent out to the Tommy Thompson Center to check on black folks that were, displaced and had moved to the area. We had family members who were calling up saying we had heard we had family members there. We're trying to find them. And so our office became very engaged in working with a lot of the black people from New Orleans that were relocated. But there was a process, and there were agencies, and there were systems, and it wasn't just this free for all. These people are American citizens and had to go through hoops to get help. And so you're going to create a different lane for people who aren't even citizens of this country?
So do you think that the lack of reaction to it has everything to do with it? There's people that look like me, and therefore I'm supportive of that?
I mean, but it's a lack of reaction from everybody. The black folks ain't saying nothing either.
You have.
The Hispanics and the Latinos, but I'm talking about organizations that got like some heft behind them, some legal teams behind them. They aren't saying a whole lot either right now. with LULAC and NAACP and all of these organizations that could challenge this in court. I'm not seeing that. And then I think the other part of it is it's so much going on. You got to pick the fight you're going to be in because this dude, they have literally cluttered the field with one drama, one situation after another, and you are just your head is bobbing. Do I go to this subject? Do I deal with citizenship birthright? Do I deal with the tariffs? I mean, you like are bouncing all of the budget's getting ready to come out. You talking about cutting and putting 5 million people off of health care. Like, where do you fight? I think that's been a part of their strategy too. You throw all the stuff out there and people are just tripping over themselves trying to figure out which fight do I take up and what's and prioritizing. Okay, Michelle, I know it sounds crazy. 49 white Afrikaners get to come to America, but right now we got this budget in front of us. So that's where our attention has to be focused. You trying to pick and choose.
I understand there will be, I think, protests for their arrival. They arrived already, right?
They got here at 6 o'clock. They arrived in DC first, and then they were going from DC to Texas.
Okay. Well, all right.
And just think about this for a second. As Texas was shipping black and brown people to New York and other states, you got the floodgates open to receive the white people. Just think about that for a moment too.
You know what it reminds me of? During at the end of World War II, when they had German POWs.
Yes.
And you had returning black servicemen who had to ride in the back of the train. But the German POWs, enemies of the country, is riding basically in first class.
Because race still trumped everything.
Yeah.
So, yes, Mr. Parris, back to your original reason why I hung out. It matters. And it matters that we had to hear this in the streets instead of from the Pope. in these streets.
And thank you for your very, very nice response yesterday. I had to look at it to see who that was from.
Scoop Newsworthy, Dr. Lakeisha Myers uncovered the fact that the Pope is black.
No, she did not. But she was the first to put me out.
Did you know? Did you know? Hey, all right. You're listening to Community Voice. The phone line's open. The callers, I know I saw you, but Michelle and I won't say that, but we were having a conversation. 414-444-5250, 414-444-5250. Quick break. Be right back. All right, welcome back to Community Voice. Again, the phone line's open 414-444-5250, 414-444-5250. I'm not in the dungeon, but this joke came up, and so I'm going to tell this joke. Again, I'm not as adept at it as the brother from the dungeon, but anyway, this came up on my reels. Daughter to her dad, I'm a lesbian. Dad, okay, hon. Second daughter, I'm also a lesbian. Dad is frustrated. He says, does anyone in this house like men? The son said, I do. Dad faints. Okay. 414-444-5250. 414-444-5250. What? I thought that was pretty clever. Who did it? Oh, okay.
I just remember hearing that last week.
Last week?
Yeah.
Here on Community Voice? Oh no, not on Community Voice.
Somebody called in with that one.
Who did?
I can't recall.
Okay.
I'm like Oliver North. I don't recall.
Oliver North, I don't recall. So anyway, good. And your Mother's Day was good. Yeah, you had your your birthday party. Yeah, that was good. Yeah, we did. It's what's interesting now is that I have a niece who's a mom. My goddaughter is a mom. And it's so interesting to send them Happy Mother's Day wishes when you remember they were just like kids, and now this means that they are adults. And but
just means you're older.
That too. I don't know what to think of this the tournament right now.
NBA.
Yeah, because Cleveland, they might be done. I mean, I hate to kind of put it out there, but they didn't show up at all yesterday. They looked like Phoenix did when Phoenix went to the West Conference Finals, and they had home court. And now of course, again, Cleveland was playing in Indianapolis yesterday. But man, I don't know if they quit.
What is that series at now?
3-1 Indiana. And they're going back to Cleveland tomorrow night.
I mean, statistically, it's very rare for anybody to come back.
Right? Be able to, because I thought about the teams that went up like 2-0. OKC tied up the series. After losing 2 at home.
What do you think about that New York series?
That's an interesting one, because I think Game 4 is tonight.
I believe it is.
Yeah.
I'm being down 20 points, coming back winning.
They said every game Boston's been up by 20. In every game they've been up by 20,
and they still end up losing
2 of them, right? And they're 2-1.
It's 2-1, yeah.
Yeah. Which is good for the ratings. That means people are watching the games, are competitive. But yesterday, man, it was like, oh man, and maybe I don't know. Some days you just don't have it, but they can't have too many more just don't have it days because they down 3-1. We were talking, and someone was wondering why, what Shadir Sanders' number was going to be, and because when at the draft they held up number 5, and they said, well, Cleveland signed him number 5. They did not. He was taken in the 5th round. That's what that number 5 stood for. But there was a free agent, I can't think of his name, a receiver who signed before he was drafted, which means he has right to the number. So he took number 2. The way it works in team sports is that, let's say I'm number 23, Debo wants number 23. If Debo pays me, and a lot of times what they ask, pay me 45 grand, pay me 50 grand, I'll give you the number. So obviously Shadir, I don't know if he offered money or the guy didn't want to sell it. So he ended up settling on number 12 in tribute to Tom Brady. So we'll see. Caller, welcome to the program. Good morning. Well, man, I was just waiting to hear the weather when George called. 414-444-5255.
Any way the wind blows.
Any way the wind
I got a
blows.
song for everything we
It's
talk about.
cool with me. Summer breeze. Caller, welcome to the program.
Hey, what's going on?
What's happening?
Keith,
Yes.
Indiana to make a believer, I think.
Excuse me?
The Indiana's starting to make a believer.
So is it Cleveland that's making a believer out of you that Indiana's going to win that series, or is it that Indiana's playing that well?
Seems like Indiana's playing well to me, man. I know they would. Everybody thought it was a fluke that they got past Milwaukee, but man, I've been watching how they've been playing. They've been playing some good ball, Keith. I don't see nobody stopping them.
Yeah. Well, I think injuries have.
Because even if New York even get past Boston, I still don't see either one of those teams beating them.
Really?
Mm-mm.
You don't think?
Especially if Indiana stay healthy. New York for sure ain't gonna beat them.
Yeah, I wonder is Matherin going to get a game suspension?
Who cares? They don't need them. Do you see the way the boys
I
are
think
playing
I
last
think they
night?
need them. The question is how injured is Donovan Mitchell? In terms of them.
You think he hurt for real? You think he didn't quit?
That was my first. That was my first reaction. I'm sorry.
I said he could be hurt, but that entered my mind. I'm like, I wonder if he just because he don't want to come back out.
I think the commentators also kind of threw that out there, kind of like it's the mysterious injury, and then that just because it's the NBA, conspiracies always surround the NBA, right? So I was like you, I'm going like, what? Because y'all down 41, you don't want to play anymore. I mean, so.
I mean, they got right. I mean, you usually don't see a team just. I mean, that might have been a fluke last night.
Well, I saw Phoenix do it. Phoenix did the same thing.
I'm talking about how Indiana was playing. I mean, man, they were just clicking in all cylinders. They couldn't do nothing wrong. I bet if they closed their eyes and threw the ball, if it was going to go in.
Yeah, it looks like, but Cleveland wasn't putting up much of a defense either. So it did look more like a scrimmage after a while. And they just figured, hey, man, we just put it in. We'll catch them at home. The problem is you might not catch them at home, and you're going to be at home.
It's over, man. Usually 3-1. It's usually over. I can't see him coming back like that, man. Not against that team,
right? Unless Indiana then does one of the greatest collapse.
And I don't see that happening with them.
Yeah, well, they're confident now, man. They believe they can do it, and you never want a team believing they can beat you because it makes it more difficult. You kind of always want them to be in the back of their minds, oh, we can't beat these dudes. No, they're not feeling that right now.
What I called you for earlier, I was trying to get in earlier when you and Michelle, they opened up with breaking news on First Take this morning. We might be losing Giannis.
Okay, surprise. Well, I think they were saying that in terms of the teams who might win the lottery.
Right, that's what they said they're looking at tonight. But, I don't think any of us want to
see that. Do you think that Cooper Flagg could be the next Giannis in Milwaukee?
Keith, ain't no way that you think that people can reduce their salaries on the team, that they can get somebody in here. Would they be willing to say, okay, I'll take a cut?
They do that in football, not in the NBA. And that's the players union, because the players union is saying if you start doing that renegotiating, you opening up a Pandora's box. So no, that's why the salary cap is what it is. That's why you have to spend 85% of the salary account. I don't see it. But I said that when Milwaukee lost that series, I'm thinking Giannis is probably, if not next year, the year after, he's gone. Because I just don't see where the Bucks at this point can put together a team that's going to, compete for a championship, not the way it's constructed right now. And you're right, with the salary constraints, you're going to have $58 million sitting on the bench next year because he's recovering from Achilles surgery. So what do you do?
I just don't see how teams like Golden State, and Oklahoma, they can get those players. Like, how the heck did Golden State get Jimmy Butler when they way over the salary cap? I don't see how them teams do it and we can't.
Ooh, but
I guess I
that
don't
big
understand that part of
salary, the part of the
basketball.
big salary was when they allowed did he go as a free agent? He was traded, right?
The other light skinned brother.
No, Thompson. Klay Thompson. He was free agent. So that was what, the second biggest contract on the team? So that freed up money. I didn't know that Dunleavy Jr. was the GM there now.
Who?
Dunleavy Jr. He's the GM in Golden State.
For like 2-3 years now, ain't it?
Yeah, I didn't even know. I didn't know he was the GM.
Yeah, for 2 or 3 years now. I guess I was just.
Boy, you go to Duke, you can always get a job, huh?
See how we can put some pieces around that, man. I would hate to, because like it's a keep. I don't know what we're gonna do with basketball here, to be honest. Where the Bucks gonna be?
Well, that's what everybody, man, with the NBA today. And look, Milwaukee's used to having a great player just leave. Now, when Kareem left, they were able to rebuild basically the franchise with the draft picks and the players that they got. I don't see, if Giannis leaves, they're going to trade him, what they would have to give up. So I know that's the talk right now, is whoever might win the lottery tonight might be in the market for Giannis. But I wouldn't be mad at Giannis if he did leave, because I think Giannis has given so much to this city. And, you have to do what's best for you, man. I mean, after a while, it's not like it's like when the people in Cleveland got upset with LeBron. It was like, dude, LeBron has did a whole lot for the city here. And then
I won't get mad at him. I won't be mad at him. I just hate to see him go, because they talking about 3 landing spots. It's either New York, Golden State, or Houston. That's what they're talking this morning on the first take. So, and that's what I'm saying. Where would they get the salary cap to go to Golden State for Giannis with that big money? He's gonna be carrying behind him to go to Golden State.
Yeah, and I also heard that L.A. could be a possibility. L.A. would have to give up Reeves, I guess, and probably somebody else. But I mean, the Bucks, because when his contract is up, Bucks have to make a decision. You want to either move on that before his contract is up, because you get nothing, if he goes as a free agent. So,
But that's the kind of stuff I don't understand about basketball. So that's the kind of stuff maybe you can explain in your call.
There's a brother. His last name is Curry, and he does Thrive, but he had a guy who works with him, who used to work with the Bucks, and he worked on salaries and salary cap and how to manipulate the salary cap to sign players. It's a fascinating science, man. It really is, in terms of how you moving those contracts in, those draft picks. Like, it's not like if you get a number 1 pick in the NFL, because that's a number 1 pick, right? So if you're the worst team in the NFL, you're going to get the number 1 pick. In the NBA, because teams were tanking, now they do the lottery, right? So that's supposed to stop teams from tanking. That right
off the top of your head, and I'm gonna let you go. Some other people get in. So I'm looking at a team like Indiana, and they got some good players on their team. So do they have like real high end money players on their team with got a big salary, or they just put
Siakam, but they're a young team. Because Halliburton is he still on his rookie contract?
Oh, really? Okay, so
no, I mean, Halliburton has only been in the league 3-4 years or something like that. They're young, man.
So nobody got those big exploded contracts on their team. That's why they was able to do
you
it.
Don't have like a big 2, big 3. I'm trying to think who else would be getting the money there. Maybe Halliburton, but Miles Turner, right? Because he's all-star. Yeah. So no, but a lot of that is just their draft picks, and some free agent signings, some trades. All right, George.
All right, thanks, man.
Colin, welcome to the program. Good morning.
Hey, what's going on, Keith?
What's happening, man?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Now I did hear on Get Up this morning where they said, as they say every year, sources say, and if you remember, for about 6 years, sources said what Aaron Rodgers was going to do, and he didn't do none of that. So we always have to consider that until you hear an athlete interviewed and they say what they're going to do. Those shows really, they have to have something to talk about in the off season. If by chance Giannis decides that he wants to move on, I think Oklahoma City is the one team that has everything that the Bucks lack, which would be draft picks, young players who are talented, and they wouldn't deplete their team to the point where they would be out of contention. Because Giannis, even though he's 30, physically he's much younger than probably all the rest of the 30-year-olds. Would you agree?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think if you go to OKC though, that team seems to be the way that they have it constructed now. They're in pretty good shape. They really have a strong bench. OKC has always been that team that kind of reminds you of the Brewers. Small market. They have some great players, but then you got to let them go because there was Kevin Durant, Westbrook, and then James Harden. And they were all playing at the same time, right?
There's a guy. Yeah, they were. There was Serge Ibaka as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Forgot about Serge. A guy who lives here was telling me how years ago when the Brewers would have Bill Hall and when Ryan Braun, all those guys were coming up, how the Brewers had become a farm team. And I'm a baseball guy. He's not. And he noticed that. So, real smart sports guy told me that. I'm like,
well, they were always known for their farm system. Them in Baltimore had the two strongest farm systems. Now I think the Yankees is pretty strong in their farm system now, but that was the Brewers. A lot of those folks were really people going through their farm system coming up, some real good choices in terms of drafts. But again, who's my guy? Adames, the Brewers couldn't afford to pay him. Yeah. That's why in New York.
Yeah. I also wanted to speak to the racial thing you and Michelle were talking about. Because
San Francisco.
There's a couple of things that stand out to me in that conversation always. One, the thing that you guys were talking about, the choice legally of a person who has parents, one who's black, one who's white, or whatever race, is your own. And I think that's, how you look is one thing, but say if you're a kid who looks white and you're raised by a black mother and you want to say you're black, because your father is black, because even though your father is white, that's your business. And then like with President Obama, how, if you remember how a lot of people were talking about he's not black enough, when this man has a Nigerian father and probably has more African DNA than 99% of Americans, most of whom were human trafficked here. And so I wanted you to, if you could, speak on this thing. There's a theme going around that we were already here, and I think people are talking about pre-glacial, Keith.
Yeah.
When we were the only humans on Earth.
Right.
And so what percentage, is my question, would you guess of us walking around in North America and South America were quote unquote indigenous Africans that were not human trafficked? Because this actually gives the colonists a pass on the tragedy that we suffered.
Very little. Because
would you say more than 2%?
No, not even that. I think I heard that, but see, now this is just me an observation. We have this thing where we develop a black chauvinism, right? So we want to show, I don't care what it is. I had so much respect for Fern Calker, who came on and said everybody came over on the slave ship, wasn't kings and queens. Right.
I like that too.
And the idea that we were here, and I remember when Keon was here, he was having this argument, and they were saying, yeah, there's books short. Okay, if you have 3 or 4 people who are here, it's statistically insignificant. I hate to put it that way. The overwhelming majority of descendants of Africans in this country came here because of the Middle Passage and the slave trade. Not because they were explorers, because they didn't have navies. That was why Europeans dominated the world. They had navies. People in Africa didn't see a need that they needed to travel the world. They pretty much had what they needed where they were. Europeans dealing with overcrowding, lack of resources. They create navies. They go and they dominate other people.
Hey, Keith,
Sorry about
if reparations, a bill for reparations was passed anytime this week, how many people would say they were indigenous and not a part of the slave trade?
But there are people, though. Now, this is interesting, though. There was a particular nation or tribe out in Connecticut where the black folks were able to show that they had some blood. That blood, I'm trying to think, is a long name in terms of that group. And they were able to open up casinos. Donald Trump went after them, right?
Okay.
You know, so yeah, I mean, because there's certain things that happens for those of us who can show that we have Cherokee. And if you're part of that Trail of Tears and there are people getting money, I do know some indigenous people who are getting checks. But I mean, the reality is that this is how the overwhelming majority of us got here. So this idea that we and that's the caste system. That's what white supremacy does. White supremacy puts you in a situation where you want to out supreme them. I just want to be accurate in the history. If we created ice cream, give us credit for creating ice cream. But if we didn't, don't say we did.
Right.
You know, because we, you know, and I think that we look at those things. That's why Black history, you know, like we because you feel a certain inferiority. I don't know if I'm saying that, but you know, you do, because that's how they want you to feel. I put it in perspective, man. You know, do you know how much George Washington Carver could have done had he been at MIT or had MIT resources?
Exactly.
You know, so a lot of it is so anyway, don't get me going, man. But I appreciate you, bro.
All right, bro.
All right, man. We're gonna get the guests. Okay. All right, man. Dude, we try to make it sound like, man, what? And some people going like, well, we was over here, we would have been telling them going back on the boat. Y'all don't want to get on the boat. Hey, man, they're offering boat rides. You don't want to get on that boat. There is something in Ghana. I think it's called the Gate of No Return. The Gate of No Return. When people go and they visit Ghana, there's an island off the coast with that Gate of No Return, where when the Africans were put on the ships, they weren't coming back. Caller, welcome to the program.
Hey, Keith, this is John. There's one right next to Senegal, off the coast. It's farthest west. It's like a dungeon that right in the west of the capital city, Dakar. That's not the one you're thinking about, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, right off the Senegal coast. It's the farthest west tip of Africa.
Well, the island is, but in Ghana, they do have this place there,
a different one,
and a big black star on it. And let me say that there have been some Ghanaians who have apologized for their part. Not a big part, but they still had a
Africans?
part. Yes, they
Black
had a part.
Africans? Oh,
They had a part in the enslavement movement. So
that's really something to actually come out like that. Hey, the other thing with the African migrants, there's almost nothing with DNA from, direct from West Africa, ancient, you know what I mean? Like you said a second ago, there's really nothing. It's all eastbound for American Indians.
No, and I'm going to say this. Hold on, John. Wait a minute.
American Indians.
Hold on, John.
American Indians.
Hold on, John.
I meant to say American
John.
Indians. Go ahead.
Oprah Winfrey did a genetic test. Oprah thought that she had North American indigenous blood. Come to find out, she had none. She had no European blood. Okay.
Can you say that again? Can you say
Oprah,
that slower?
Yeah, that she was more African than she thought she was. Because in America, unlike when you get to South America, when you get to the Caribbean, in America, intermixing didn't happen. Now, of course, you had slave masters who would rape enslaved African women.
Right.
But the apartheid in America was such. I mean, you could literally lose your life, for interracial relationships were illegal until the Loving case. So in America, even though we see a lot of mixed race people, when you look at it in terms, go to Brazil and look at the mixtures in Brazil, right? It's a totally different animal, because in America, because of the British, because of the Germans, very, very stringent when it came to separation. And I used the term
Right.
race. I hate to use the term, but it was very. So yeah, we'll
know
sit
what
up
you
and
mean,
make
yeah.
it sound like all these people interracial. No.
No.
Now,
So
I would probably have some European blood based on the fact that somebody in my family, but for the most part, no. Let me do this, John, get some guests. And so
all
let
right,
me do,
thank
you can pick me up at 10:30.
Okay.
All right,
Thanks.
man.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate you. You can call back. I'm black. I'm blacker than black. How y'all doing today? As we great segue into Juneteenth, as we talk about the legacies of slavery. Hi, I'm Keith Parris.
Hi, good morning. I'm Nicole Goins,
Hey, Nicole
co-chair of the
Goins.
parade committee.
All right. And you are?
Vanessa Johnson, one of the co-chairs of the Bender area.
I say that because we've known each other all our lives. And last time she was here, she was talking about my game. I can't believe that. I'm still hurt, Vanessa. I can't. So Juneteenth is coming up, and Juneteenth is held on what day? June 19th. So what day is Juneteenth on? June 19th, man. So, well, I'm glad we have you here because of the parade. So talk to us about the parade.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me here. It's an honor and pleasure to be here. We are excited about the 54th annual Juneteenth Jubilee Parade.
50 just seems like yesterday.
It seems like yesterday. So we are, definitely off to a great start with an amazing amount of participants. Thus far, our deadline is for registration. Deadline is May 18th. We are hoping or anticipating to have at least about 150 to 170 participants. Don't laugh. Is that lightweight or?
Hey, well, we laughing. We laughing because some people were just finishing up the Juneteenth parade last week. You had so many people.
No, don't do us like that. We are working. And when I say working, we are working diligently on innovative ways to really strategize and make sure that we get through things in a timely fashion. I know that that's been one of the concerns of many when it comes to, man, y'all just taking forever to march up Atkinson or march down Atkinson, I should say.
Well, but that wasn't part of it. I think that was, and we joked about it, but that was a good thing because it showed that people wanted to be a part of it.
That part.
So no, we were just joking.
Okay,
cool.
Know
how it is with descendants of enslaved Africans. We talk about how long church is, and then we was able to add the Juneteenth parade because I was up in the county village, and it was like 12. And I'm like, we still got people in the parade. They was, but I think they wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have some new faces this year. I'm excited about that. I learned of that after sharing to my social media outlets and actually seeing those that say, oh, we're going to be a part of this year, and seeing those applications actually come in made a world of difference because that says that we are trending in the right direction. We're getting more involved.
And I can't, being here for all 54 of them. I just don't remember. I think it's great that the parade has really become what it is in terms of the participation and the diversity of groups that participate in it. I used to always get down there during the day, so I missed the parade. Now I'm in the parade. So, but I think that's great. It's almost looking like, what do they do down in Chicago? Something day. Oh God, it's a Gus something day on the South Side. And that parade and our Juneteenth parade is even bigger than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with that. As far as the diversity goes, again, when those applications start rolling in and just those expressing being a part of on a diverse level is definitely taking a new year and a new step for the parade.
So when you said that you had people, they do applications?
Yes, sir. So our applications are either a physical or a paper application, or they're able to register via the website, juneteenthmilwaukee.com. So both methods are being utilized to accomplish successful applications.
And so they would just contact you. The deadline is May 18th.
May 18th, yes. So again, JuneteenthMilwaukee.com, because although I am sharing sharing all of the information on my both personal and business social media outlets, I do have a lot of correspondences in like my DM or my private messenger, requesting more information and still saying, how do I sign up? Click that link too that I post on Facebook and Instagram. That will lead you directly to JuneteenthMilwaukee.com.
And the parade that we compete with is the Bud Billiken Parade
Oh.
on the south side of Chicago. It is known as the largest African American parade in the country. I don't know. I think we can really push up.
I think they got to step their game up.
I think they still have like marching bands. They still have some bands. That would be nice to have a high school marching band.
Yeah, so this year we are looking forward to having, I believe, at least 3.
Great.
Again, behind the scenes, we are working. So we are looking forward to having marching bands, and definitely, most importantly for me, is incorporating as many youth and different programs as possible, because they are our next generation. They are who we're passing that torch to, and we need them to really highlight the growth and development that we have in Milwaukee.
So Vanessa,
Prizes.
yeah.
Sorry?
The prizes.
No. So competition is always a thing. I don't have the numbers for as far as the competition first or placement, but we definitely are incorporating with as far as floats go, our dance team for competition. So that's still gonna be a factor. I don't have the numbers as far as the dollar amount, but know that it's some dollars involved.
Well, thank you again for having us here. I'm one of the co-chairs of the vendor area. Currently, we have 289 vendors. My goal is 400. The registration for vendors closed on June 2nd. So if you know businesses that want to do food or their novelty or retail or just community agencies, please have them get their applications in. Our footprint, again, has expanded. It's from Center to Concordia. So a lot of times when people come, they thought it was still Center to Burleigh, but we go all the way to Concordia. And that's at the end of the zone area for our kids zone. So it's really important that we have agencies that are kid friendly, if they're childcare centers, places like that to serve our smaller youth. That's the best place for you to be. And that's where I try to schedule and put those vendors in that particular area. The same as if you're teen friendly, we put you in the teen zone. If you're working with seniors, we have you in the senior zone. And then also if you're working with our vets, we have you in the veteran zone. So we really try to encompass different zones to help support the families in the Milwaukee community. We got a lot of out-of-town vendors, which I'm excited about. They come from all over the United States to be a part of Juneteenth. Again, my goal is 400. Last year we did 450, but we got more food trucks this year. So 400 is a goal that I'm anticipating.
Is there a deadline for that application?
That application deadline is June 2nd.
Wow, I mean that it goes up to, because I think you said the kids zone is up, and I think they have some little rides.
Yeah, they have carnival games for the kids, petting zoo, free ice cream, free food. Kids can win prizes. So that's probably the best zone out there.
With the kids zone?
Yes.
Yeah.
They'll also have a mobile spa bus in the kids zone this year, which is owned by myself. That'll be a amazing incentive. Yes, it's a mobile spa bus for girls where we do pampering parties. So girls participating in the kids zone will be able to come and have their nails polished, of course, free of charge. Pink and pretty.
Pink and pretty. Pink and pretty. There also, what about the, and I know you have your own lane in terms of, but what about the kids who want to be involved in the essay contest?
Well, the pageant is applications are closed. So they've already started with their rehearsals. The pageant is June 7th at the Dr. Martin Luther King Community Center. So it's a little too late for them to get involved in that. They would love to have people in the audience though, to help, watch the pageant and support the kids that are already being selected.
What time is the opening ceremony?
Opening ceremony usually starts right after the parade, so we're hoping the parade is on time, so we can anticipate the opening ceremony starting no later than noon.
4 o'clock.
Central Standard Time.
Central Standard.
We're officially opening up, and by the way, it's time to break those booths down.
Right.
Come
it's
on
time to-
now. Come on. Don't do us like that. Come on, we the village.
Oh my God. I love African people all over the world. And it says, I mean, and just think about where we've come from in terms of what Juneteenth, like I said, where we come from. It was a celebration that was primarily in the South and Texas, Oklahoma. And it was a little while back, pulled up this map of people who did Juneteenth celebrations prior to it becoming a national holiday. And there was just this one little dot in the Midwest. That was us. And so the people who had, that was Miss Kemp and some other folks who had that vision that we were going to celebrate Juneteenth. And I would have never thought as a child that one day it would be a national holiday. You know what I mean? Think about just how far we've really come. And I think it's important for us to understand the history, how we even got there and the importance of it. But I look forward to it every year.
Keith, I have a question. I know Mr. Kearney, different ones have spoke to it, but a lot of times folks, when you're trying to give the right information, it doesn't get disseminated properly. Because there are folks that still walk up to my man. So Juneteenth, I knew they was going to move it. They moved it to the lakefront. That's not the case. Can you ladies speak to that at all?
Yeah, I can speak to that. Our partnership with Summerfest starts after the Juneteenth Festival ends on King Drive. So as Mr. Cole talked about, our parade is still where it always is, starting on Atkinson, turning off on Burleigh, vendors, Center Street to Concordia. But after our festival is over with, the Summerfest staff have made plans for our Juneteenth pageant to be a part of the opening ceremony. Summerfest has gone out to get acts that we would want to see, Isley Brothers, Eric Benet, but everything is after our festival is over with. So please, those of you who have that information, that's false information. We're not moving. There's no plans to move. It's just so happened that it's two festivals that have come together that anybody can enjoy both festivals.
That had everything to do with timing in terms of how Summerfest has changed its schedule. And Juneteenth just happened to be in that first weekend now because they do. In the past, we'd be around the 4th of July. Now they're starting earlier with 3 weekends, I think they do. That's right, Isley Brothers and Eric Benet.
Eric's coming home, huh?
Yeah, Eric's coming home. Yeah. So it sounds like we're moving along again. What about? And this is not your. If people want more information, because I know there are people who we've had folks in who've dealt with volunteers. Is there a number or a website they can go to?
Yeah. Again, the website is juneteenthmilwaukee.com. They can get information on being a volunteer, being in a parade. Also the Freedom Ball special event that raises the money for the pageant recipient. They can get that information as well. If they want to talk to someone directly, they can call 414-372-3770. And then you can ask for myself, Vanessa Johnson, or Mr. Tony Kearney.
When is Freedom Ball?
Freedom Ball is coming up, and I want to say it's Friday the 15th. 13th.
Well, ladies, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Anything else?
Thank you for having us. And just to kind of piggyback when it comes to volunteers, it takes a village to make this historical event a success, and we definitely need volunteers in all areas, not just the parade to make sure we finishing on time, but all all areas. The parade is actually looking forward to having at least 200 volunteers. So again, feel free to go online, reach out to actually sign up, but we can definitely use volunteers in all areas, vendors, teen zone, kid zone, senior zone, veterans. We would appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
You're listening to Community Voice. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Thanks, guys. Look at
voice. I have a question, man. How many people were in your high school graduating class?
A bunch. All I can tell you is I can't tell you cumulative. I just know it was a lot of us. It's getting smaller by the years, though.
Byron, what about you, man?
I don't remember exactly. Probably a couple hundred.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, where'd you go?
Riverside.
Wow. I can remember we had 173.
Was Leonard over there?
No, not at that
Mr.
time.
Leonard, yeah.
Mr. Kane was there, though, right?
Mr. King.
Kane? Yeah. Coach football.
He didn't go.
No.
He didn't go there.
You went there? Okay.
No, I'm talking about Byron. He didn't go to school.
I was a teacher at Parkman. I don't remember you. Yeah, because I don't remember seeing you. Like, oh, what are you saying, bro? No, I was just a few years back. One of our nephews down in Miami graduated.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Miami International High School. The graduating class was 2,500 students. At that commencement,
They only have one school?
Yeah, that was one school. That school is huge. So if it's 2,500, you figure it's maybe close to what, 8,000, 9,000 students.
Well, how many days do they have the graduation ceremony? Because you can't do all of that in one night.
All they did was read names.
Oh,
They just read names. There were no speeches. They did an opening invocation, and that was it. And they just read names.
So they don't walk across and shake their hand and hand them the diploma or nothing?
Yeah, you walk across, but you're just reading your name. And,
Wow.
you know,
Keep it moving.
Keep moving.
Yeah.
and I'm trying to think when my friend graduated from Custard, the year I graduated, they got at about 700, and they graduated outdoors. They were at the old Custard Field. But yeah, we were just, and I was asking my niece, I think she said it was about 200 in her class. So we and it seemed like a lot of students, but it wasn't until you start going to.
Speaking of which, have you gone to the new Custer Stadium?
Yeah. My godson was playing football there. Yeah, it's AstroTurf, like it's turf.
My son played. He was the quarterback. I shouldn't tell this, but they didn't win not one game.
Okay,
not one.
I know that feeling. I played on a team like that. I know that feeling. Yeah.
My phone rang. It was the coach. Well, the week prior to that, they played these big old white boys from Gladstone or somewhere they came from. And they took him out the game because he got hurt. My son thought he had a concussion. Well, the following week, they went on the road. They went back to Gladstone. When they called me, he said, Mr. Debo, we're at the hospital. Your son, he all right. He all right, but he think it's last week.
My godson, he was at White Young Leaders Academy.
Mm-hmm.
They had a football team. He must have been a sixth grader. They were seventh and eighth graders. This little dude, and he was like a tackling dummy. They would be killing him in practice, man. And I told him, I said, man, you got to hang on in there, man. He's like, no. He said, Poppy. Then I was seeing him get worn out. I was like,
he said, I'm done. Huh?
I'm done. I'm going like, okay, I can appreciate that. Now he's like 6'2", 210. I said, boy, if you would have stayed, I told you if you waited a year, you be hitting the little dudes that's coming in.
Maybe.
I had a coach, though, man. I must have weighed 117 pounds. He had me on the offensive line.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm just getting run over every time. And he said, Parris, do you have any guts? Do you have any guts? And I'm going like, dude, I got plenty of guts. I ain't got no weight. This dude's running me over.
That's what the problem is. I don't have a weight.
Heart, but, after a while, you making some business decisions, because you get like, it's like hitting Derek. I dare you to go head on with Derrick Henry. You making a business decision.
I played middle linebacker, which I like that position. It enabled me to get in there and do some things.
Right.
I had a little weight though,
Yeah, you got weight, man. But I didn't realize I like playing defensive end. I was tall. That's great because, you know, you can do more with your hands.
Mhm.
But dude put me in as middle linebacker. I'm telling you, Debo, every time the ball was snapped, the center was in my chest. Boom, boom. They put me back on defensive end, man, because that was his whole job.
Was your quarterback getting sacked a lot on account of you?
Man. Oh, no. You know what? Yeah, because it wasn't just me. We were just an awful little football team, man.
The little rascals.
Yeah, man. It was what were we? We were the Pacers. That already wasn't even a football name. Then you had other teams like the Northwest Side Vikings, the Charger Redskins.
They still have the football leagues out now. I mean, like
Out of Lincoln
the
Park.
youth-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that is serious, man. I mean, and I'm gonna make this social commentary. You know, young dudes really benefit for having their moms really involved. Because I'm telling you, any piece of equipment they want to get, their mama gonna get out there and buy it for them. I was looking at my godson, man. I said, you better dress than a whole lot of these pro athletes, man. And were you 7th grade?
Yeah.
I mean, that we went to I gotta take that too. We went to a tournament that's sponsored by one of the sneaker companies.
Mhm.
Dude, all you can have is that particular brand in that venue.
Mhm.
You know, if you're participating, if you're a coach, the players, they're all in that particular brand. I'm not gonna call it brand because I'm not gonna make money for the brand. But yeah, and I didn't know that. They said, well, any brand you come in, my godson was telling me, like, yeah, if it's Nike, everything is Nike. Everything, if it's Jordan brand, everything is Jordan brand. And the kids have no choice but to buy everything, you know, from, because you gotta, and everybody dressed the same. Because I was looking at the sneakers and I was going, everybody got the same sneakers on. And it's going, yep. Caller, welcome to the program. Good morning. Well, you're too late. Yeah, so it is now, man. If you got like remember the little shiver pads that you would have on your arm? Linebackers used to have them. If you had one of those, you were really doing.
They had the little foam in it.
Yeah,
yeah.
Forearm, yeah. Caller, welcome to the program.
Hey, good afternoon. Good morning to you, my man.
What's happening, brother?
I'd like to digress if I could. Back into
You cannot.
Oh, okay.
No, go on, man.
Well, I respect it because I wasn't able to get to you guys when you were talking about the Pope and you know, his you know, what he is. You know, let's be totally honest, man. If we could all go back up to heaven and God said, what would you like to be when you get there? Most folk would say, please, Lord, make me as white as you can. Make me as white as sister. So when you see these people come in and they use the Caucasian race to get ahead, then you must blame them. If you look at the European, I mean the European Hispanic that can pass for white on his application, he puts white. If he talks fluent English and he's Hispanic, he gonna put white. And the Puerto Rican, when he fill out an application, you know what he put on here? Mexican. And the Negro was left alone. He can't put him. And that's a shame, and it's very scary. But if we had to go back to heaven and ask him, God, what God said, what you want to do? And I'll tell you something else. If slavery still wasn't in existence, a lot of folk would own slaves today, including our own people, because I see how we treat each other and others, you know, and that's just how it is. I had to digress for a moment. So the Pope ain't gonna go back and he been vetted. They done already vetted that man all the way down to his great grandmother. They know where he comes from. You know, ain't no way in the world that they made a mistake and blow white smoke out the chimney and without vetting. They done pretty much vetted him. They know exactly where he's from and where he come from. I guess that's the closest to black they could get without giving us the African brother.
All right,
you know, I just thought I'd throw that in for kicks.
I appreciate
you. Yeah.
Caller, welcome to the program. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, sir. Good morning, Mr. Parris. Thank you for taking my call. Assalamu alaikum to you and the brothers and all who are present
Yes, sir.
in the studio. Wow. And I have to take a deep breath to regain control of my emotions. We must rise above emotions into the thinking of God. This is a part of the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But that's not primarily why I'm getting scatterbrained. To listen to people who I don't know what they are, because I've never met any of the persons other than the people in the studio. I don't know none of these people other than my brothers who are FOI. When I hear or when listening, when we talk and people talk about Black people or people in general being relegated or redesignated to a inhumane position like servitude, chattel slavery was for us here in America. You know, it is for me. I'm listening to a completely perverted mind with regard to anything. I can't accept anything that you talk about as legitimate if and when you add those types of things into your commentary about us. And here's why, and I will go after this. This is what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad was talking about. How Master Farad Muhammad saw himself pushing the 13 families into a lake of fire. And you know, the lake of fire is America. And in the book, The Fall of America, America is prescribed or forecasted to burn for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And so we should take those things into consideration and look at what the current Pharaoh is doing. And he's trying to make us actually turn to ourselves so we can do what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad has taught us to do for ourselves. Go into our own and produce everything that we need. We're the ninth richest economically, ninth richest group of people on the planet.
Well, let me ask you this question, brother.
Yes, sir.
Did you hear? I think you're obviously responding to Meech. So Meech is asking a question. Meech wants to know if knowing everything that you know now, and you had a choice to how you would come.
Oh, right. That's right. That's what escaped me. Go ahead. Let me listen. I apologize.
Right, no problem.
Yes, sir.
You know, would you want to come back
as a cracker? Right. Okay. No.
As a cracker.
Yes. No, you know, crackers are good for oatmeal.
So let me ask this question then, and here's what he's saying. So then would you purposely choose suffering?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Over not suffering?
No, because if you understand genetics and you understand the idea or the concept of what race and racism is, and I was a track star. I ran 100-meter yard dash, 200, 4x1, you know, and whatever. So races end, and they're pretty fast. And if we look at the world of the Caucasoid, it is based upon speed, microwaves, everything fast, quick, fast food, fast is quickies, like a quickie sermon or whatever the hell that was about.
So if you knew that you come back as an enslaved African?
Yes, no, brother, listen, this is what I wanted to say to that. If you can't go any further beyond your mother and your father. So that I think would nullify that argument. And you can't go to no heaven because you don't even know what this heaven is. When you live on a sphere, which way is up?
No, he gave a hypothetical. And the hypothetical, and I know people don't like to do hypotheticals, but knowing the history that you knew and you had a choice, would you go and want to live that history that you knew about if you had this choice? Would you purposely
No.
want to be an enslaved
A
African?
Caucasoid.
No, or being white.
A Caucasoid. No, because that's not the original, and that is not the quintessence of what God Himself is. Allah is not a Caucasoid, and the Caucasoid comes from the albino.
So the answer to that question is no.
Emphatically,
Let me get
no.
the next caller because I'm running out of
Thank
time. Appreciate you, bro. Caller, welcome to the program. D. Sorry. Caller, welcome to the program. And then I'm sorry, man. Yeah, my bad. Yeah. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program. Good morning.
Well, if you just 3 days ago say somebody's accusing you of being an Uncle Rucker and you repeat an Uncle Rucker hypothetical, because it depends on what time frame you're talking about. A good example of what I'm saying is
You got us on speaker because you're breaking up, man.
Keenan and the young lady who plays on the
We
show,
can't hear you, man.
the guy from Everybody Hates Chris, where they were in a time machine and Keenan was playing Frederick Douglass and the young lady was playing Harriet Tubman, and they came back to the 2020s and they were with Michelangelo and a bunch of other white people who these guys, Ted and the people who did Ed and Ted.
Hey man, we can't make out nothing you're saying.
Oh, hold on, I'm sorry. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, you can't call in on speaker.
Okay. How about now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, and then bring your phone volume down a little bit because that's why you get a little feedback. Okay, go on, man.
Okay. How about now?
That's good.
Okay. I was just saying, if you quote Uncle Rucker 3 days after saying you were accused of being that, you kind of are the hit dog that, the previous caller talks about. But I saw a skit on Saturday Night Live where Keenan played Frederick Douglass and the young lady from the show with the guy who played Everybody Hates Chris was playing Harriet Tubman. They came back to the 2020s and they were with Ed and Ted, some guys who were playing those guys with the time machine thing. And they were with some Europeans who, Michelangelo, a bunch of them, who were being sent back to the time they came from.
Yeah, they just.
Keenan, of course, said when they asked, well, if you don't go back to 1860, 1859, who's going to fight against slavery? He said, well, we got a long bench for that,
right?
And so I would definitely say I agree with the last caller. Heck no, I would never want to be anything but what I am. But I would not want to. Of course, no one would want to come back to the time of slavery. And for most of Black existence, we were not slaves.
Yeah, and he was talking about, I think he mentioned, like, you're going to be dealing with something that seemed rather minor compared to enslavement. He said, they laughed like, okay.
Yeah, you saw it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're going to stay. And then who wanted to stay? Was it Michael Ed? No, it was Julius Caesar. Because he found out he was going to get killed.
You're going to be killed.
He was going to get killed. He said, no, I'm going to stay too. That was clever. No, I mean, the point was that it's bad now, but they were saying it was really bad then.
Yeah.
I mean, so let's try to not make it sound like either we haven't made any progress or we made all this progress, but we could definitely say that it has been better for us than it was for our ancestors who were enslaved. There is no comparison.
Amen.
There is
and
no
should
comparison.
Quit making comparisons to like sports and other occupations to slavery, because to me it's a disrespect of them and everything they sacrificed for us to be here.
Well, wasn't it Rolling Stones that said everybody gonna serve somebody? I don't know if it was whoever came up with that idea. I think that what happened with enslavement was you got nothing for your work. Now we can argue.
Brother Meach could speak for himself. I mean, me maybe he does want to be white, and maybe that's the reason. Maybe that comment explains everything that he says when he calls you. Maybe he wants to be so white so bad. Like I said last week, we sick, is what Malcolm X said, and we can pity him and still love him at the same time for his entertainment value. God bless you, Brother Meach, and that's as far as I can go with it.
I know I caught it because I said I wanted to work in the house. And oh man, so I said, y'all going out there and get your tan. Do what you do. But if I had a choice to work in the house or work in the field, I work it in the house. Okay.
Hey, Key, some of the house slaves were castrated, right?
I understand all of that. I had another caller said they put the retarded slaves in the house. You can say what you want to say, all right? But all I'm saying is y'all go on out there and y'all be strong out there in the field. But who would want better duty? I want better duty, man.
Mean, if I had to have them cut off, I would go and pick a little cotton. You seen John Amos when he was talking about cutting his.
That's because he was a runner. That's because he was a runner.
I'm saying, yeah. I'm saying.
Now let me say this. But did you know that the three Hebrew boys?
Man.
But did you know the three Hebrew boys were eunuchs? They were eunuchs, and a lot of that is, they created eunuchs so they could work around women, and they were worried about all these other things. So you created eunuchs, right? You castrate males, and I mean that's what that again. But Kunta, he was running, and that's when they gave him the choice. You could lose your foot, or you could be castrated, and he decided it was going to be his foot.
Yeah, cut it off at the knee. I'm with Kunta.
Yeah. I mean, got to tell you where your mindset is, though, right? So it's like, yeah. All right, man. Let's get this last caller.
All right, man.
Caller, welcome to the program. Yeah. So I mean, and I appreciate all the righteous black folks. You dying for the cause, but I'm gonna be up in the crib. Caller, welcome to the program. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I learned some very interesting things today.
Yes, sir.
One was I had learned some time ago that when they had black men working in the house, they often castrated them.
Okay.
But I also learned that after castration, you can still perform, just no production.
Right.
And this was an interesting thing too. When the prophet, your young man who spoke to you earlier, said white people are albinos, and I was wondering when albinos occurred in Africa and in all black situations, they were dealt with certain kind of ways. Sometimes they were treated as gods, weren't you?
Right.
Y'all have a good one.
Hey, you too. Yeah, every I hate to use race, but every folks, when it comes to the melanin, there is albinos, right? There are Asians who are albinos, Europeans who are albinos, Africans who are albino, indigenous people. It just becomes one of those biological exceptions. It just happens. Now, the argument that some has made in terms of why white people is white was they were born, it had everything to do with where they lived. And we're talking thousands of years of living in an environment and the impact the environment will have on your appearance. I just noticed that we were working in the yard Saturday, and I just noticed I got a little darker. It wasn't hot, but just got a little darker. This is your environment, man. Caller, welcome to the program. No, we got to go. Good caller. Okay, that's perfect. So let me thank Miss Vanessa Johnson. Let me thank, what's Miss Goins' first name? Yeah, Miss Goins of Juneteenth Committee. Let me thank Michelle. Byron, thank you. Nicole Goins, let me thank you. Debo, thank you. Callers, we thank you. The good Lord willing, Creek don't rise. Hope to talk to everybody tomorrow. And as always, go from this place in peace.